Hi everybody, thanks for joining me for another tutorial in Melinda's Rubber Room. I'm Melinda Pierce, I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm here today to show you how to make this card. This is a card that I did in my January stamp camp, and if you purchased a stamp camp or stamp class in the mail, you will have received all of the product to make this card with the exception of the stamped images. And in place of those, I've given you some die cuts from some designer series paper that you can use in place of these stamped images. So if you have the stamp set framed florets, you can do this card exactly the way that I've done it. That's what I used to basically make all of this front image here. And then I used some of the Stampin' Up! Celebration paper that you can get for free as the background paper. So again, the frame florets creates all of these beautiful die cut images, including the frames, and it cuts out the floral images that we'll be doing as well. So I'm going to start by stamping my floral image with the Memento ink, and then I'm going to be coloring the image in with our Stampin' Blends markers. Those are our alcohol markers. So I'm using the Memento ink with the alcohol markers. Like so. And I'm using the dark fresh freesia and the light. And I'm going to start with the light, and I'm just going to color in fairly quickly just the flower. And I'm using the brush tip of the marker. It does have a brush tip and a fine tip, so if the fine tip is more comfortable for you, then by all means you can use that. I like to use the brush tip for these larger areas, and then use the fine tip for the detail. So again, I'm just going in with the light color first, and then I like to go back and go in with the darker color just to add some highlights or lowlights or whatever you want to call them. Okay, so that's those. So these are our alcohol markers, Stampin' Up's alcohol markers. They're called Stampin' Blends, and they just blend so pretty. You get such nice coloring with them. I don't know if you can tell, but there's no lines that are showing up that you get with regular markers. You do have to be careful because they are alcohol markers. It will go through onto the back side of your paper. So you always want to make sure that you're stamping on paper that's going to be layered on something else. Okay, so now I'm going in with my darker fresh freesia, and I'm just going to go over some of those lines that Stampin' Up! Has already provided for us. These are basically highlight lines. It tells us where to do some of the shading. Just kind of helps us out a little bit to be more creative than some of us really are. Lets the stamp do all the work. Okay, and then if you don't like that contrast to be so as much, you can just take your light Stampin' Right, or your light Stampin' Blends. I can't color and think at the same time. And just go over those areas a little bit more, just to kind of help blend in that dark with the light. And you can see as that dries, it gives you a little bit more definition and contrast between the light and the dark. Now I'm going to go in with my Mossy Meadow. So the Mossy Meadow can get pretty dark if you use the dark one. So I'm going to stick mostly with the light. And what you can do is go over the light multiple times to achieve the darkness that you want, rather than using the dark blends. So if you find that the dark blends is a little too dark for you, then just use the light one and very sparingly use the dark. I'm just going to do these fine ones all at one time. with the fine tip. I'm going to go back with the thicker tip and go over the leaves. And again, Stampin' Up! Has already made some of the definition on those leaves for us. So they're actually fine just going over with the light mossy meadow. And you still get some of that definition coming through with the ink. This one I obviously stamped a little bit lighter, so it's a little bit harder to see those lines. If you wanted to, you could go back with the dark and just go over some of those, the veins on the leaves, like so. And then go back again with the light to kind of blend that in a little bit. But you can see how that does start to get pretty dark. It will lighten up as it dries, but you can see that a little bit better closer up. Okay, I'm just going to fix this flower here that wasn't stamped very dark. Okay, that'll do. All right, so I'm just going to run this through the cut and emboss machine real quick. I'm just going to cut my cardstock down a little bit so I can use my mini cut and emboss machine. And again, all of these stamps and dies are all part of that framed florets bundle that's in the mini catalog. So if you get it as a bundle, you save 10%. And you can purchase that on an online store at www.melindapierce.stampinup.net. And we are celebrating Celebration right now, so with every $50 purchase, you can get some free items. So make sure you check that out. Don't miss out on that great deal. Usually all you have to do to get to a $50 is purchase a bundle so you can save 10% and get a freebie item at the same time. So it's a great time to get those items. Okay, so that was the mini cut and emboss machine that I was using. All right, and then if you purchase the card kit, you'll have your base card, you'll have your evening evergreen mat. I'm just going to attach that to one another. And you'll have the designer series paper. And again, this was one from the free celebration pack that you can get. It's called Dainty Flowers, and it's beautiful designer series paper. Lots of tiny little flowers. I did a lot of cards using that paper, so make sure you go back and look at some of my videos or join me over on my Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Melinda's Rubber Room, and you can see lots of samples over there using that Dainty Flowers designer series paper. So on this frame, I'm just going to put small amounts of glue in these larger areas of the frame. I'm not going to try to glue the whole thing down. Looks like I missed a few of the things that needed to be poked out. So I'm just going to take a pick tool and finish poking those out. Just like so. Another one up there that I missed. Okay, so there is that frame, and then we have the oval that also came with the kit. And I'm going to stamp my greeting. You always want to stamp your greeting before you glue your items down, at least most of the time, just so that you can turn it over. If you do make a mistake, you can turn it over and glue the other side down, or stamp on the other side. And I'm just going to glue that right in the center like so. And then I'll bring in my floral images and raise those up on dimensionals.
Yeah, my wife does the same thing.
Just like so. And then on the inside, just have the blank piece of white cardstock. We're going to stamp another floral image. And again, I'm going to be layering this on another piece of cardstock, so it's okay that I'm stamping and coloring directly on this. It's just going to be layered on the inside of my card. And then I'm just going to take the greeting for the inside of my card and stamp that. Just like so. And I'm just going to attach that to the inside of my card. Put that right in just like so. And there is that second card from my card class in the mail. All right, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.